I'm back again. Yeah, and for those of you who are just tuning in, I am currently reading my dad's manuscripts. Because after I'm done reading them, I'm going to publish them. This one is Guardian of the Sword, and I am currently on chapter 8 of it. So if you are just tuning in and you haven't watched my previous broadcasts, then I recommend you go back to the beginning and watch all the past broadcasts and work your way up. Yeah, so nope, I haven't got that. I can read tonight, and that's the other thing I should probably let you guys all know. As I am reading, I won't be able to look up very often, so unfortunately this makes it challenging for me to try and chat with everybody. But what I'm gonna try and do is, if there's breaks in here, what I will do is when I take my drink of coffee, I will try and check the stream to see if anyone's talking and go from there. So yeah, without further ado, chapter 8 of Guardian and the Sword. The ancient bond between the Guardians of the Sword and the people of the hills did much to save the kingdom of Aventir during the first harsh years of its existence. The barbarian tribes of the wildlands seeking an entrance to Aventir must come through the hills, or swing wide round them and cross the river. In either case, the men of Aventir had adequate warning, and Darkon's companions were given time to meet them. The hill people never forgot their ancient link with the Guardians. Aventir, The Kingdom Out of the Ruins, by Amerlin. To kill 2 trolls in one fight was a deed worthy of elder hero Garthel Longsword, or Karkel of the Silver Ring in more recent times. Most of the young men of the war host pledged themselves to prove that they were worthy of such a leader. The leaders themselves spent some time in settling their plans for the battle, and in establishing the state of their forces. The infantry accept you as their leader, Baron? Asked Rorik. Aye, well enough. Some think it would be better to have a person of proper birth and position in charge of them, but they will take their orders from me. And it is true, we have few men of proper birth and position left among us. And they understand what it is required of them? Yes, the cavalry will ride in and out to wear the Hygerians down. The infantry will take advantage of that and drive the barbarians from the field. They understand the plan, but they dislike the thought of taking a secondary role to the cavalry. I have made it clear to them what will happen if they render the plan useless by their pride, but they do not like it. Rorik took a deep breath. We have spoken to them again and again on that subject, and I doubt the wisdom of further words from myself on the subject. Connell nodded. It would serve to put ideas into their heads that had not hitherto held them. But powers grant the young fools restrain their pride, and yet, he thought for a moment. Baron, I will need to speak to them in the morning. Yes, my lord. In the morning, Baron had the infantry drawn up in their ranks on the training ground, and Connell sat his horse before them. The prince cast his eyes up and down the rows and began to speak. Men of Asbelon, we go to restore the pride of our land. Yet I have heard that some feel themselves too proud to stand by the orders given them. Their pride will suffer for taking what may seem to be a minor part in the coming battle. For 5 years I sat idle in the hills, until the coming of the sword gave hope to Asbelin once more. For 5 years I waited, with no chance to strike a blow against the invaders. Is your pride, then, so much greater than mine, that you cannot hold by your orders for some minutes? The man who breaks ranks without orders will be as much a traitor as Draxon the Accursed, who sold the High Pass. Let us go now, and let us all take our parts in this battle, not as something grudgingly given, but as our service to our land, our homes, our people. There was a silence. Then the men gave a cheer. The officers then began to sort the men into their companies, and prepared to march them to the chosen field. The slower traveling infantry had set out. The cavalry commanders, Rorik, Connell, and Randall, sat in the chief's house. Dust motes danced golden in the sun, streaming through the doorway and windows as they talked, occasionally of many things, but not of the battle to come. Just before they were about to rise, by common but unspoken agreement, Helena entered with a jug and 3 cups. She poured each of them a measure of ale. Fortune favor you, Connell, King of Asbelin, Randall, son of my mother's brother, Kabar Stimb Bion. May you return in safety. For you, Rorik, what words are left? I will wait for you, and I will return to you. There was no more time left. The 3 strode out into the sunlight. The horsemen waited there. Wolf-shaggy, laughing-eyed, they stood, sat, or squatted in the dust, idly tossing knucklebones. As the commander appeared, they were up and adjusting harnesses, donning helmets, and calling to comrades who'd gone into houses for a final farewell. A summoning horn was blown, and the horsemen began to mount. Minutes later, they were marching. Rorik turned to catch a glimpse of Helena in the doorway of Orin's house. The ride to the site of the battle was undertaken mostly in silence, though from time to time, 1 or 2 of the young men would start a bit of song, a song of love or hunting, or of some long-lost legend, but never of war. At last, just before they divided their companies to go their separate battle stations, Rorik turned to Connell and said, "Now we go to battle for the freedom of our land. One prize only I desire, a young brown maiden's hand." Connell stared off across the horizon for a moment, then answered, "I sing a song of evil times, of armies lost and fled, of hunted king in hidden hills, no crown upon his head. I sing a song of victory, of triumph in the land, a king who rides to gain his crown with friends at either hand." And Randall, too, had a verse. "A battle is a chancy thing, be it lost or won, and fleeting are affairs of men who walk beneath the sun. Kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall, and one thing is still sure. When empires are all gone to dust, yet the earth will still endure." There was no ambush this time, no attempt to do other than stand and challenge the Hygerians with their presence. The Dark Ones had formed up their infantry in several ranks, and had knots of cavalry on each flank. These dispositions were matched by the Asbalians, though their force was somewhat smaller, and Rorik held his third of the cavalry in the rear of the infantry. According to plan, Connell and Randall led their cavalry to distract the Hygerian horse. They did not come to close quarters, but rather rode into loose arrows, inducing the Hygerians to pursue them. The Asbelnian infantry opened their ranks to allow Rorik's force to ride through. They rode down to loose arrows at the Hygerian infantry, coming close enough that a few javelins landed among them. As they loosed their arrows, they circled and rode back toward their own lines. About 2 horse lengths from their own lines, they turned to ride back again, coming even closer to the Hygerian force than before. Rorik had loosed his arrow and had dropped his bow onto the pommel of the saddle when he felt his horse stagger. Looking down, he saw that the horse had taken a javelin in the chest. Dying, they had ignored his efforts to turn it and continued to run towards the enemy. Without warning, the horse went to its knees, casting the guardian over its head. Rorik came to his feet about 5 feet from the Hygerian ranks. He knew that if he turned and ran, he would take a javelin in the back inside 5 paces, so instead he stepped forward. His shield had been slung on his back, and he pulled it free in time to ward off the first javelin. He drew the sword and went to do battle. It was easy enough to fight through the light-armored Hygerian archers and javelin men, but battle became somewhat more desperate when they and the heavy infantry surrounded him. He knew, though, that he must go down at last. This way he would fall as a warrior, smiting his foes. He was suddenly aware of Hygerians falling back around him. Then Baron and 20 men were around him. The old warrior looked at him and then said, "Are we in time, then? Come, guardian, let us be gone from here." Indeed. They all backed away from the Hygerians, step by step, meeting very shortly with the rest of the Asbelnian infantry, who were advancing in line. By now, the Hygerian cavalry had been drawn off far enough that Rorik's squadron, under the capable leadership of his second-in-command, had been able to sweep around the rear of the Hygerian infantry. This, coupled with the infantry attack, broke the morale of the Dark Men. Shortly, they began to break ranks and run. The efforts of the Asbelnian commanders were then required to prevent the prince's army from breaking up to pursue the fugitives. 48 infantry and 22 Icarians had died in the battle, including Randall, who had gone down early in the fight with a Hygerian javelin in the chest. Okay, so that was another really short chapter. I don't know why I'm getting all the okay, so it's funny because there's really short chapters, but there's a lot of really short chapters. So yeah, that just means that there'll be more of me doing this and getting used to everything, and then I'll be going into actual manuscripts I'm going to be editing, but not before I'm done this behemoth, which is not even that much of a behemoth. If you go back and read and listen to previous, like farther back, the war leader and his wife, that has way more chapters. I'm not even done that one, and there was a lot to read there. So comparatively, yeah. What was I gonna say? So I was also gonna mention, yeah, you know, I think it's good. I'm just gonna leave it here for now. Thank you all for tuning in. I know this is a short one, but it's kind of nice on the other hand too, because I'm kind of in a bit of a hurry. And also I'm having buffering issues, apparently, with the Twitch stream. So, I don't know. But anyway, I'll talk to you all again tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. Good night, everybody.